Thanks very much, Jackie. Now, new research has revealed that people suffering from schizophrenia could control the part of their brain that is linked to hearing voices. Now, this study connected the brain region to a game which showed a rocket in the sky, and participants were told to move the rocket down to Earth with their brain. It's almost like a brain training exercise. Well, it's a very interesting development. And to talk to us about it, we have the Labour councillor and schizophrenic Andrew Gordon. He's in the studio with us. And joining us from Central London, Brian Dow, who is from Rethink Mental Illness. Good morning to you both. Let's start by talking to you, Andrew, if I may. Now, I explained that rather clumsily, but this research essentially... well, this research is all about brain training by the sounds of it. How interesting have you found this development, what you've read so far?
So I found it really interesting because my experiences of having sort of psychoses and hearing voices, one of the ways sort of I managed that was by doing lots of meditation. So by focusing on one word and one component, and that really helped me manage sort of my auditory hallucinations. So it's really interesting that they've done this study that sort of has a similar sort of vein in it, yes. Golden thread almost. Getting
the brain to focus on one specific aspect. Brian, I'll come to you. This is going to be seen as an alternative to medication, because the criticism has been from mental health campaigners that as soon as somebody presents with symptoms of schizophrenia, they're put straight away on medication.
Well, medication certainly can help, but very often has very nasty side effects. So anything that's if you like, non-prescription based is very interesting. I mean, what I find fascinating about this is we all have an internal dialogue going on in our head. You know, do I have time to stay in bed a bit longer? Shall I get this train when I'm en route to the studio? But of course, generally speaking, we are in command of that. We can decide when to turn that dialogue off. People who have schizophrenia often struggle to do that, and so anything that can help them take command of that situation, I think, must be incredibly cathartic for people hearing the story today.
Yeah, Andrew, I mean, you know, there is no one-size-fits-all solution for schizophrenia. Talk to us about your experience, because it was very much trial and error as you were growing up dealing with this.
I mean, it took me 10 years to get to the place where I am now, so it was no sort of easy thing. I think it's difficult to actually articulate how terrifying auditory hallucinations are, how terrifying voices are. One of the challenges I had was I had 3 voices in my head, and as we all know, sleep is really, really important for your well-being. And when you've got 3 people in your head arguing constantly, that can make sleep a little challenging. And it's actually pretty terrifying. And not only do you have sort of the psychosis part of it, you can also have the other things like the depression that goes with it, paranoia, anxiety, delusions. So there's a whole sort of package around it that can really cripple your life. But for me, I was just really fortunate that I've had some fantastic people to support me on the way. I was really lucky to get into what's called early intervention psychosis services, who really helped me develop some coping tools to sort of manage the things that was going on. And that all led me to where I am today, which is, you know, thankfully, I've been medication-free for a long time.
It's interesting. Brian, Andrew, they're talking about having a whole package of symptoms that comes with schizophrenia, and I would imagine the solution to helping people is to put together a whole package of measures. So perhaps this new research showing, you know, that brain training can help, coupled with medication, coupled with counselling or something like that. It can all be brought together to help people. It's about having a tailor-made package for people.
Well, that's exactly right. Every individual is exactly that, an individual, and their symptoms and actually the causes of their illness can be quite different. So you're absolutely right. Having that package of care is very important. And of course, schizophrenia is far more common than we think. About 1 in 100 people have some of the symptoms of schizophrenia, and people often think that it's the kind of term that's associated with it is this split personality, and you've heard from Andrew very powerfully there. It's nothing of the kind. It's coping with some of those internal voices or those hallucinations, which are actually are more distressing for the person themselves than you can possibly imagine.
And just finally, Andrew, before we go, people are talking so much more openly about mental health now. We all have mental health in some shape or form, but schizophrenia still seems to be the one aspect of mental health that people are frightened to talk about.
There's a lot of stigma towards that label. People think, oh, they're going to get you know, a murderer, you know, someone who's hearing voices really sort of strange. And actually they're not. They're just going to get an ordinary human being who has some issues alongside of it. you know, one of the great things, I think more and more people are opening up about it. More and more people are saying, I've experienced this. And I think we as a society need to do everything we can to encourage that, because the healthier our society is, the better it is for everyone. And, you know, I know if it wasn't for people who are brave enough to accept me for me and actually give me the help I need, to be quite frank with you, I'd be dead. So that battle against stigma is so, so important because it saves lives.
Andrew, so good to talk to you this morning. Thank you very much.
you.
Andrew Gordon and Brian Dow as well, talking about that new development in schizophrenia research. We're going to take a check on the weather now. Joe's on duty this morning.